Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm so glad you clicked. This is the spot where I share real wild and sometimes unbelievable stories that hit hard. Like the ones you read on Reddit, but told in a way that makes you feel like you're right there in the room. Today, I've got something special. I read this story on Reddit a few weeks ago, and it stuck with me. I genuinely don't know how to talk about this with anyone in my life. Some background. I'm 28. I live in Atlanta and I've been with my girlfriend, I'll call her D, for about 5 months. She is, without question, the most real and genuine person I have ever dated. Like, from our very first conversation, she just had this quality about her, where she said what she meant and meant what she said. No games, no performance. I fell for her pretty fast and I'm not ashamed to admit that. But about a month ago, something changed. Not in a dramatic way, more like she got quiet. Not sad quiet, just far away. Like she was physically in the room, but mentally she had gone somewhere I couldn't follow. I noticed it a few times and I asked if she was okay and she always said yes. I didn't push it because I didn't want to be that guy who makes everything into a thing, you know? Okay, pause. I already feel this. Because this is such a real thing. That moment where you notice something is off with your partner, but you don't want to push too hard because you don't want to seem insecure or overbearing. So you just watch and wait and hope they come to you when they're ready. Alright, keep going. It kept happening though. Little things. She'd go quiet in the middle of dinner. She took a phone call in the bathroom at like 11 p.m. that she said was her mom, but she was in there for almost an hour, and when she came out her eyes were red. One time we were walking through the park and she just stopped in the middle of the path and stared at the water for way too long. I didn't say anything. I just stood next to her. I finally brought it up about a month in. I was as gentle as I could be. I basically just said, "Hey, it feels like you're carrying something heavy and you don't have to carry it alone." She said she was just stressed with work. I dropped it. Then last Wednesday happened. Okay, here we go. Last Wednesday. This is the night. Let me keep reading. We'd had a quiet dinner at my place. Nothing special, just pasta and a show we've been watching together. Afterward, we were just sitting on the couch. No TV. No music, and she started crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears rolling down her face while she stared at her hands. I didn't say anything. I just put my hand over hers and waited. After a few minutes, she looked up at me and said, "I need to tell you something, and I'm terrified that when I do, you're going to look at me differently." I told her I doubted that. She said, "You don't know what it is yet?" And then she told me, "Bro," the way he wrote that. And then she told me, just sitting there by itself like that, you can feel the weight in it. Okay, here it comes. D grew up in a small town in Tennessee, middle child, older brother, younger sister, from the outside, normal family, church, cookouts, the whole thing. But her dad was an alcoholic. Not the loud, obvious kind, the quiet, controlled kind. The kind where everything could be completely fine for weeks and then something small would flip a switch and the whole atmosphere of the house would change overnight. He never hit anyone. But there are ways to hurt people that don't leave marks, and she grew up learning every single one of them. She said she spent her whole childhood learning to read the sound of his truck pulling into the driveway. Whether it was a bad day or a worse one, she learned to make herself invisible. She learned that love in her house was conditional in ways she could never fully figure out, no matter how hard she tried. And then she told me the part that knocked the wind out of me. When she was 16, she was struggling. Silently. Because that's what she knew how to do. Anxiety, depression, the whole weight of everything pressing down on her. And one night she hurt herself. She's carried that in private ever since, she said. Not entirely out of shame, though some of that too. But mostly because she'd never found a way to say it out loud that didn't feel like dropping a grenade on whoever was in the room with her. She pulled up her sleeve. There were scars. Old and faded, barely visible, but there. She looked at me and said, "I'm not that person anymore. I've done years of therapy, I'm okay. I just needed you to know this about me. I couldn't keep hiding it from someone I'm falling in love with." Okay, I gotta pause here for a second because, wow. Just wow. Can we just acknowledge for a moment how much courage that takes? To look at someone you care about, someone you're falling for, and say, "Here is the darkest thing I've ever been through. Here it is. Right in front of you." Not knowing how they're gonna react. Not knowing if it's going to end things right there on that couch. That is terrifying. That is one of the most vulnerable things a person can do. And I know some of you watching right now have been in her position. Sitting on something heavy, trying to figure out if the person you're with is safe enough to hold it. I see you. Let's keep going and see what OP did. I sat with that for a moment. The room was quiet. And I want to be honest. My first reaction wasn't words. It wasn't even a thought, really. It was just this feeling in my chest. Like, she just handed me the most fragile thing she has. Don't drop it. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I pulled her close. And I held her. And after a second I said, "Thank you for trusting me with that. Thank you for staying around long enough to tell me." She cried harder after that. But it was different crying. It didn't feel like grief. It felt more like, I don't know how to describe it. Like releasing pressure. Like some things that had been coiled tight in her finally had somewhere to go. We talked until almost 3 a.m. She told me about her therapy, about what her triggers are, about what she needs in a relationship and what she doesn't. She was so clear and so specific and so honest, and I listened. I didn't try to fix anything. I didn't give her a speech. I just listened and asked questions and let her talk. At some point, she looked at me and said, "Why aren't you running?" And I thought about that for a real moment because I wanted to give her a real answer. And I said, "Because everything you just told me is not a reason to run. It's a reason to stay. That's you trusting me with the most real version of yourself. I would be an idiot to walk away from that." She didn't say anything. She just put her head on my shoulder. I'm posting this because I don't know how to process what I'm feeling. It's not bad. I want to be clear about that. I'm not second-guessing us. I'm not scared of her. I'm not looking at her differently in a bad way. If anything, I feel closer to her than I ever have. But it's a lot to hold, and I needed to put it somewhere. I guess what I'm really asking Reddit is, am I handling this right? Is there anything else I should be doing? I want to show up for her the right way, and I don't want to mess this up. Yo. Okay, first of all, the comments on this post were incredible. The top comment, which had like 47,000 upvotes, just said, "You're already doing it right. The fact that you're asking this question means you're doing it right." And honestly, that's it. That's the whole answer. But wait, he said update included. So let's get to the update. This was posted about 6 weeks after the original. Here we go. Update. For everyone who asked, it's been about 6 weeks since that night on the couch. A lot of you asked me to update and I kept putting it off because honestly I didn't know what to say. But I think I do now. Things between D and me are different. Not worse. Better. Way better. Like the night she told me everything, it was as if whatever thin layer of distance had been between us just dissolved. We talk differently now. We're more honest, both of us, about the small stuff and the big stuff. I think watching her be that brave made me want to be braver too. I've done some reading about how to be a good support system for someone with anxiety and a trauma history. Not to fix her. She's made it very clear she doesn't need fixing, and honestly, she's more self-aware than most people I've ever met. But just to understand her better, to know what actually helps versus what just makes me feel like I'm doing something. She still has hard days. She told me she always will, to some degree, and I appreciate that she's honest about that instead of pretending otherwise. But the hard days look different now because she's not carrying them alone anymore. Sometimes she'll just say, "I'm having a hard one today." And I'll say, "Okay, what do you need?" And sometimes it's company, and sometimes it's space, and I'm learning to tell the difference. A few weeks ago, we were on the couch again, same spot actually, and she looked at me out of nowhere and said, "I feel safe with you." Just like that. Casual. Like she was commenting on the weather. It kind of wrecked me in the best way. I don't have some grand conclusion here. I'm not writing a how-to guide for relationships. I just know that the night Dee decided to trust me with the scariest part of herself was the night our relationship actually started. Everything before that was real and good, and I don't want to discount it, but that was the night it became something I would fight to protect. Thanks, Reddit. You guys helped more than you know just by letting me say this out loud. That's it. That's the whole post. And I'm just gonna sit here for a second because, man, that last line. That was the night it became something I would fight to protect. I feel like that's what real love actually is, when you strip away all the stuff we pile on top of it. It's not the butterflies at the beginning. It's not the perfect dates or the grand gestures. It's the moment when someone shows you who they really are. All of it, the hard stuff, the scary stuff, the stuff they've been carrying alone in the dark, and you look at them and think, "I'm not going anywhere." And it works both ways. Because the moment Dee decided to trust him with that, she chose him too. She made a decision that this person was worth the risk of being truly known. That is everything. I want to talk to you guys for a second because I know this kind of post brings up stuff for people. Some of you have been in Dee's position, sitting on something heavy, trying to figure out if anyone is safe enough to hold it. Some of you have been in OP's position, watching someone you love carry something you can't quite reach. And some of you are in the middle of something right now that feels too big to say out loud. I just want to say, you don't have to have it all figured out before you're worthy of love. You don't have to have healed completely before you deserve a partner who shows up for you. The idea that we have to be a finished, polished, problem-free version of ourselves before we're allowed to be loved. That's one of the most damaging lies our culture sells us. Dee hadn't finished healing. She had scars, literally, and she was loved anyway, fiercely, immediately, without condition. That's the goal. Not to find someone who only loves the highlight reel. To find someone who sees the behind the scenes and stays. Drop a comment below. Tell me what this post brought up for you. Tell me if you've ever been brave enough to show someone your real self, or if you're still waiting for the right moment. I read every comment, genuinely, every single one. And this community has the most thoughtful, most real comment sections on the platform, and that is fully because of you guys. If you want to find more posts like this, head over to r/TrueOffMyChest. It is a rabbit hole, fair warning, but it is a worthwhile one. And if you're new here and this is your first video with me, welcome, stick around. We do this every week. Real stories, real people, real feelings, no filters. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you know somebody who needs to hear it today. And take care of yourselves out there. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.